Recording started. See, that wasn't on the recording, by the way. Stream is going to the stream. Now it's time to go live. And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, as well as my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mike. Long week at work as my partner in crime in the office is on vacation this week, so I was flying solo this week, but went pretty smoothly, and the extra hours always help on the paycheck. So
Yeah.
so not too bad. Mike, how was your week?
I can't complain. There are much worse things. I mean, it was a busy week at work, but, busy is not bad. It just means stuff's getting done. We did get a lot of stuff done, so I'm happy with that. So, other than that, no, it's been a great week.
All
I'm a
right,
little
Mike.
tired.
So we got a little bit, yeah. I know, I'm tired too. So we got a little bit of things to talk about this week, Mike. Why don't you give us two of our topics we'll be talking about?
Well, we have those En Fuego Cubbies to talk about, along with the my second favorite football team in the NFL.
All right, you'll find out what that team is once we get to the NFL talk, as we'll be looking at which division this week, Mike?
The West. That's
The West. Thank you. All right, Mike. We'll also be going into the NASCAR corner. We got to talk some trades that happened over this week from show to show, and as well as look ahead to Michigan this week on the NASCAR side. But Mike, all that and more. But what do we got to do first?
We're going to roll the intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, Rich. So before we get into the extreme important stuff for the week, we got to talk a poll question. The most important thing of the week.
That's right, Mike. As our last of our group of eight, a group of 8 songs, I guess. As we had Nana Nana, Hey Hey Hey, Kiss Him Goodbye, YMCA, and Twist and Shout. Mike, while you're bringing up those poll results, where did you vote this week?
I mean, I voted for Twist and Shout, but what is wrong with people?
I don't know if it's what is wrong with people. I was surprised too, but by the results. I voted YMCA.
Okay.
I voted YMCA. How did the people vote, Mike?
Well, my wife voted for Twist and Shout.
Okay.
And then a bunch of old people. My mom, my Aunt Debbie, and my old boss, Greg Sackerson, all voted for Nana Nana, Hey Hey, Kiss 'Em Goodbye. Man, old people, thanks for at least participating. You picked
So we'll see. Nana 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 Nana, Hey Hey, Kiss 'Em Goodbye. Into the next round.
Yeah, that's crazy to me, but Rich,
Right,
if you would have voted for Twist and Shout, we would have had to call in another old person to break the tie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went with where I voted. That this is sometimes what happens when you put a third song into the mix and go 3.
Yeah.
But anywho, this week we're down to we still got 8 songs. We got to cut that list down to 4. And Mike, this week's matchup will be "We Will Rock You" by Queen and "Seven Nation Army" by the White Stripes.
Wow. Hey,
Get
Rich.
that poll up later tonight.
Do you know how far back this poll game this one has gone? Do you have that on a list?
I don't know. I don't.
It's not a big deal. If you don't, I don't blame you.
I don't remember when we started this one.
I think it's a year at least.
I don't think it's been quite a year.
Okay.
Well, maybe a year if we go with when we started with what was it?
The original Jock Jam? I don't know.
No. Let me bring it up here real quick. Because you see, we started with like stadium songs and then Jock Jam, something that was yeah, we started with sports songs, like something that has to do
Oh yeah,
with sports.
the directly with sports. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, something that you'd hear that was specific to a certain field or was
Yeah.
about a sport. And then we've gone into just stadium songs or jock jams.
Yeah.
So we're gonna stay on the once this poll is done, Mike. We're gonna go with songs that were like maybe the title song with a sports movie.
Okay.
So think like "Eye of the Tiger" from Rocky. "You're the Best Around" from the Karate Kid, something like that. So I'm still working on compiling that list of
Okay.
title songs from. Yeah, but anyway,
Is that gonna
that's
be?
for another day.
Does that
Mike.
one count? Like the one from Sandlot?
I'm trying to find a title song from The Sandlot. I will get one in there for you.
Okay. I mean, we already know that that's the greatest sports movie of all time.
In your opinion, Mike, yeah.
What did the people say, Rich?
And our poll questions with the way that
Are
the
you
poll got
are
structured.
you saying that you do not trust what the people said?
No.
You don't like our audience?
I do not agree with their opinions of The Sandlot being the greatest baseball or sports.
You
movie
just
of all
said you don't like our audience.
time. No, just their opinion on that particular subject.
But Rich, you're denying our audience their greatness and their intelligence. You're insulting them. Rich, folks, it's not me, it's Rich. Rich doesn't like your opinion.
On The Sandlot.
What's funny, though, is he's the one that does all the work for the poll questions. Okay. Okay, I'm still... Okay. We've derailed the show now. Why do you think The Sandlot is not the greatest sport? Like, what is quintessentially not sports about it?
No, it's not the quintessential that it's not sports about it.
Okay, what's a better sports movie?
I like just looking at it as a baseball movie. I like other movies more than The Sandlot.
What, you gonna tell me you
Just
like
looking at it as a
Bull
baseball movie.
Durham?
Yes.
Oh,
Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, Major League.
See, Field of Dreams to me, I like. Unpopular opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big fan of Field of Dreams.
Okay, and that's your opinion. That's fine.
Field of Dreams, like, to me, it's a boring movie. I'm gonna put it out there. It is a boring movie. I've fallen asleep to that movie multiple times. So, that's first. Second, it's about a man who's crazy. But I did get to go to the Field of Dreams and watch the first game there, and it was kind of special. And I even screamed out, "They'll come, Ray! They'll come!" So I played into the movie a bit. But still, Bull Durham, that one, I will give you that Bull Durham is a good. It's a as good of a baseball movie as you can get when you're telling the story of what it's like. But it's not, I mean, one, you can't, I wouldn't let you watch, I wouldn't let my kids watch it. Not at least until they're teenagers. Right?
And that's fair. And you probably say the same thing about Major League.
Oh, definitely. I would not condone them watching it, but if they wanted to watch it, you got to be at least in high school. Yeah. Yeah. No. No. Sandlot, I would put it on with my kids right now.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd sit through it, but I wouldn't have a problem with it being on. Tell me another sports movie like that that's not like 100. Here's the thing. Sandlot was made for adults, not for kids. So, with it being made like with adults in mind, tell me another sports movie that does the same thing. That
Probably not as well known, but I mean, one that probably one that was more geared towards kids, but along the same lines that you could probably put it on and not have to worry about what the content of it is. But Rookie of the Year.
But Rookie of the Year was directly made for kids. Rookie of the Year and Little Big League, I think, are the two that you're probably thinking of.
Yeah.
Those ones aren't made for adults, though. You and I enjoy them because for us it's the nostalgia factor, but it's not a movie my dad would sit down and enjoy at all. For him, it's too much of a kids movie. The premise is far beyond that. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm never going to convince you. I know it.
You're not. You're not.
Do you think Little Big League or Rookie of the Year is better than Sandlot?
No.
Okay. And do you think either one of those is geared towards adults?
No.
Okay. Sandlot truly was geared towards adults. It was the nostalgia factor of the time. Kids, it's a movie that kids can watch, but it's made for the adults. Anyway, we'll move on. Like you said, We Will Rock You, Seven Nation Army. That's the first round of our Elite Eight. Rich, speaking of greatest baseball movie of all time, and let's move to our favorite baseball team as we talk the Cubs. This week the Cubs went 4-3, exactly what you predicted this week, Rich, as they split with the Cardinals, took 3 out of 4 against the Reds in record-setting fashion.
Yes.
And lost today to the Braves in a terrible way. It was one bad inning, really, but
yeah. For everything that went right in that series with the Reds scoring, what was it, 32 runs in a 2-game span, the most since like 1897, I think they said it was.
Yeah, something like that.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't translate over to the Braves, but at the same time, the Braves are coming in as the hottest team.
Yeah.
In the same span, just like the Cubs are. When two hot teams come together, somebody's got to lose.
Somebody has to lose.
And it was the same thing
because there's no
with the
ties
Reds,
in baseball.
The same thing with the Reds. The Reds were coming in just with a really high winning percentage after the All-Star break too.
Yeah, it's crazy to see what the Cubs are doing. I was already a buyer on this team. The trade deadline's gone past. We're going to hit that up in just a second. But I think this team is, man, there's a lot of great talent here. I still think this is not their year. I still think they have a year or two before they're going to be ready to go. But, man, this is a good team. So, Rich, what's their lineup look like this next week as games they have to play?
Well, next week, Mike, from show to show, they'll be playing the Braves this weekend. They're going to go out to Queens for 3 games with the Mets, and they're going to continue going east when they go up to Toronto for a Friday night game before we record the show.
So there's 6 games there.
6 games, yes.
How many games do you think they're going to win, Rich?
Well, Mike, I'm going to go with 4. We got a
Ooh,
bullpen
wait, that's
game.
a Friday night game?
I'm sorry?
That's a Friday night game?
With the Jays?
Yeah.
Yes, that is a Friday night game.
We're gonna have to record next Friday.
Okay, we'll take that off the docket because that'll be either that'll be we'll take it off. So we're down to 5 games now.
Sorry, we're going out up to Minneapolis next Saturday. So
in that case, Mike, I'm gonna go with 3
out of 5.
I'm trying to think here.
I'm gonna keep it at
3 out of 5.
I'm gonna keep it at 4.
Okay.
They're either gonna win the 2 against the Braves, or they're gonna win all 3 against the. They're gonna win one of the 2, and they're gonna win all 3 against the Mets. Yeah,
I'm going to go with the split against the Braves. They're going to go 2 out of 3 against the Mets. I think it's kind of hard to sweep. It's hard to sweep, and... It's hard to sweep, and we got a bullpen game against the Braves tomorrow with an already tired bullpen coming out of that Red Series and yesterday.
And today.
And today's game, so it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay,
So we had the trade deadline, Mike.
Yep.
And the 2 we'll start with the Cubs. They picked up infielder Jeimer Candelario from the Nationals for 2 lower level minor leaguers that are in high A ball. And they picked up, I think it's Jose Quiroz, a reliever from the Kansas City Royals.
Okay.
Did they do enough, or do you think they could have had a couple more moves in them?
I think there's moves to be made, but you have to do it for the right price. You can't sell the farm team to make the this year great. It's just not going to work. They put in some pieces. Who did you say they got from the Kansas City Royals?
From the Kansas City Royals, it was a relief pitcher by the name.
No, it was an outfielder.
Quiroz. No, they did not get an outfielder.
Oh, I'm sorry. We sent over. I read the ticker wrong. That's who they acquired. You're right. We did.
That's who the Royals got in return.
Okay. I'm used to reading who the team is giving away, not who the team is picking up. So it's a little bit of a different ticker for me, but that's fine. I see it now. Okay. I mean, we need relievers. That's about all. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I was almost kind of hoping that they would have found a way I would have almost had them trade a catcher away.
Okay.
Either Gomes or Barnhart, even if we're just getting a lottery ticket like a like a low-level minor league player, because I really think that Miguel Maya deserves a little bit more playing time behind the dish, and I just don't think.
But Gomes has been playing quite well.
He has.
And Barnhart pitched today.
Yeah, Barnhart did pitch today.
Yeah. He scored, was it 2 or 3 pop-outs? Fly-outs. It was great. That was the highlight of the game. A 1-2-3 inning in the 9th, pitched by a catcher. It was a terrible game. Anyway, I think they could have done more, but I also don't think there was a need to. What are you gaining?
I know. For me, it was a way to get more playing time for a young catcher like a Maya. That was the only thing. But at the same time, just like we found out when we didn't offload Wilson Contreras at the trade deadline last year, catchers tend not to change spots at the deadline because typically a pitching staff gets comfortable with the current catchers on their roster, and it's hard to integrate a new catcher behind the plate.
Right. So there's that. There's also the fact that, I mean, in all honesty, as we've seen so many times, a good catcher is your field commander. And it's not just the pitcher that feels comfortable with him. It's your first baseman for those snap throws, your second baseman for those caught stealing situations. Those type things, you need your catcher to be on the same page, not just with your pitcher, but with everybody. So it makes it really hard to offload a catcher like that. Now, let's look at other moves that happened. Any other big names that happened? As we did see the Mets offloaded both Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander.
Yeah.
So the Mets have given up on the year? I mean, rightfully, but they have.
Yeah, I mean, both teams, but I think at least with Verlander, because Verlander was the second one to go, they had talked with the Mets front office, and Verlander was told we're not going to be competing until 25.
Yeah,
so it isn't like all right, we're gonna trade Scherzer away, but we're gonna be in the market to replace him with a big high price free agent. So Verlander was flat out told 2025. So they're gonna transition. So if you're a team in transition, does it make sense to keep a 40-year-old pitcher that might not be on your roster by the time 25 rolls around, when you're expecting to be competitive again?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So they took care of a veteran pitcher like him and granted his request of trading him away. They're going to pay him to pay for the pitch for the Astros.
Now, here's the question. Does Verlander... is this just sending Verlander back to where he got his rings to let him finish this year and he's done?
No, I think he could be playing. I think if he has a vesting option in his contract, I believe, to where if he reaches a certain point with innings pitched or something, an option vests into the next year, so they get Verlander for next year as well.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I just, man, I don't know. I hate Houston. I hate that his life, like most of his winnings, and most of his big time was in Houston. It makes me sad. I don't like it. Send him back to Detroit. Let him go back to where he started from. But and Max Scherzer,
St. Louis. Yeah, go ahead and finish up.
I'm
thinking of the Mets.
I just think the Scherzer trade, I mean, it was inevitable. So the Mets needed to. They weren't going to be competitive this year at all, which is sad because, I mean, everybody thought when they picked these two guys up that, well, write them in for the NLDS.
Yeah.
Or NLCS. Write them in for that.
At least a playoff spot. And they really disappointed. But Scherzer and Verlander weren't the only ones. They traded off their closer, David Robertson.
Yep. They blew up that team.
He went down to Miami. Matt Conha, their left fielder, got shipped off to Milwaukee. To where the only people returning to that roster that's going to be of any name worthy is going to be Francisco Lindor.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Just goes to show you can't necessarily buy yourself a playoff spot.
Yeah.
By going shopping in free agency. It's going to work, but in this case it didn't, and at least they saw that it wasn't working, and they took what they could get in prospects to build back up the farm system.
Yeah. Also, notable name, the Dodgers offloading Noah Syndergaard. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think I think the name of Noah Syndergaard, but
he hasn't been Syndergaard. He hasn't been
talent-wise.
He hasn't been the talent that he had been. You are correct, but
Yeah.
he's
Yeah, he went out to Cleveland for Ahmad Rosario.
right.
Good infielder depth piece for their team.
But the hard part for me on that is that he's one of those guys that brings such veteran leadership that it's almost worth having him on the roster, even if he's not performing to what you need him to. In my opinion.
Okay.
But
yeah, but that they did bring in a veteran.
They did.
Yeah, they brought in Lance Lynn from the White Sox. The White Sox were another team that, much like the Mets, tore it all down.
And again, much like the Mets, look to be one of the teams to like. It's crazy to me, and that's what we should have done this week. We should have looked at in baseball. We should have been looking at. I mean, we had to look at the trade deadlines and this stuff, but next week we should look at what our predictions look like. Because after the trade deadline is where we normally like to look and say, okay, how likely are these going to hold? And I think, if I remember correctly, I think I had the Sox doing well, at least making the playoffs. So,
I can definitely put that in the outline for last week, for next week. But yeah, the White Sox unloaded.
Yeah, put it in the show outline for last week, Rich.
I'll do that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the White Sox unloaded Lucas Giolito and Rolando Lopez, who we talked about last week on last week's show. This week it was Lance Lynn and
Joe Kelly.
Yeah. And Joe Kelly, a veteran reliever.
Yeah. Yeah. Good baseball has to be happening in the north side.
Down. Cardinals tore it down as they traded off. They kept Goldschmidt and Arenado.
But what are you going to get for Goldschmidt at this time?
Exactly. I think you're right on that one.
Even
Arenado. What?
Yeah.
Is any package you're going to get going to be good enough?
Right.
Especially if you're not going to pay down any of that contract. That's why the Mets got who they got, because they were willing to throw cash in with the deal to offset the contracts.
Yeah. St. Louis, so honestly, St. Louis they just tore it down. They half their roster almost. I don't think it was quite that much, but at least 6 or 7 guys, right, got traded.
Yeah, it was Paul DeYoung, Jack Flaherty, Jordan Montgomery. I mean, some of those guys were due to be free agents at the end of the year, but eventually, they had 4, 5, 6 consecutive division titles.
Yeah.
Eventually, that reign is gonna come to an end, and that's when you got to make the hard decisions that they made today of which players are we going to keep from that core and which ones are going to be let go, and they made that decision this year.
Yeah. So, anything else with the trade deadline before we move on, as we are approaching that half-hour mark?
I don't think so. Maybe give me one team. Well, because that's why I have it. Who do you think improved the most through the trade deadline? And maybe what's one team that, other than the Cubs, that you thought could have done just a little bit more, or you surprised didn't add anybody?
I don't know. I think Texas was all over the place. Texas seemed to be involved in a lot, but didn't seem to I don't think they're going to do anything about it. I'll go with the Angels.
Okay.
I think, in all honesty, the Angels, they made a couple of trades at the end there, but not enough to make it look like they're actually trying this season.
See, I liked the moves that the Angels made, but I don't know if it's going to get them to a playoff spot. It improved their team with who they brought in.
I agree.
Don't know if it's going to translate to a playoff spot.
But your question wasn't, your question was more, to me, felt more about who's gonna, like, who could have done more, and I think they could have done more.
Okay. Now I see your point there.
And especially here's the big thing, and I'm not here to say they should have traded him or shouldn't have traded him away, but they have the biggest free agent that we're gonna see in our era, and this is them getting nothing. If they get nothing for him at the end of this year, this is going to be, we're going to talk about this as worse than the Babe Ruth trade.
Yeah, but did you want to be remembered as the team or the GM that traded away Shohei Ohtani and the prospects, and have none of those prospects ever pan out for you?
Rich?
Or did you want to go
here's
down
a question.
the road of...
No. Time out. Time out. We're going to play this game. I tried to steer us away from it, but we're going to play this game. If you're the Cubs, how much... I'm going to put you in the as the GM of the Cubs. Rich, you've just been named the GM of the Cubs. It's a trade deadline. Shohei Ohtani is on the table. How much are you giving up to get Shohei Ohtani? The man has 40 home runs already this year. So now you're improving your offense. By the way, he's got a sub-2 ERA, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's a 3. We'll go with 3. I'm doing this off the top of my head. So he's got a sub-3 ERA. By the way, you just improved your pitching staff. You now have an ace on your pitching staff. I'm going to give away as much as I need to. And tell me I'm wrong. You could have taken half, if not 3/4 of our farm team for us to get Shohei Ohtani this year. And I think there are teams that are out there that man could have improved the team enough to put them over the top. I think the Cubs could have been one of them. I know that they've announced that they are going to go heavy at him in free agency, which, by the way, shouldn't that be considered tampering? We'll leave that alone. But why wouldn't you trade the farm for Shohei Ohtani?
If I knew he wasn't going to be a free agent at the end of the year, if I had more than one, if I had a controllable year, I follow your train of thought of trading some of our best prospects to get him for 4 months.
Okay, you're right. Sure, it's 4 months.
For 3 months. For 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months. Let's do that. Okay, now I'm going to make you the GM of the Dodgers. The Dodgers. The Braves. Any of those teams. Tell me you're not willing to give away your farm system. The Braves and the Dodgers look like they're on a collision course for the playoffs. One of these teams, at this point, I don't see that one of these two teams aren't the teams to win the World Series. If you're one of those two teams, tell me how Shohei Ohtani doesn't instantly improve your team in a massive way. League leading 40 plus home runs already. I don't care. If I can get that much from him, my team needs way more than Shohei Ohtani if I'm the Angels. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked their train of thought. And all right, let's show that we're committed to adding and improving the team. to maybe show him that, hey, we're willing to put more money into our roster. Stick with us. Really listen to us when it comes when free agent time comes to talking with us.
And there's good there. That is a good way to look at it too, and I think that that's what the Angels are trying to do. But I don't know that you can't tie up that much money because you're gonna have to spend the money on him.
Yep.
So, okay.
And you got Mike Trout locked into a long contract.
Yep.
As well.
Okay. Rich, do you see what's coming up next?
Mike, is it a left turn?
It is a left turn, and what's after that, Rich?
It's another left turn, Mike, because we're going to go into the NASCAR corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois, down on 5th Avenue, or you can find them on the eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. So, Mike, last week we were in Richmond for the Cookout 400. Mike, who was our race winner?
Race winner was Chris Buescher. Rich, where did our picks land?
All right, Mari. My pick of Kevin Harvick came in 10th. Your pick of Martin Truex came in 7th. Closing the gap to 15-12 in favor of myself.
Okay. Puts us only 3 away. With the honors as we head into the Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan, I'm going to take a guy whose team is always fast there. I'm going to take William Byron.
All right, Mike. A good pick. He's having a good year, so I don't blame you one bit. But I'm going to take a guy that's Fords have won like 5 of the last 7 races at this track. So I'm going to go with the closer again and go Kevin Harvick.
That's not a bad pick either, as he needs to be winning. So
he does. I think he does need to win to get into the playoffs, and Michigan's a good track for him to get the win.
Yep. Okay. Rich, I believe that was the NASCAR Corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out on 5th Avenue for all your sports memorabilia needs, or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Rich, let's get into football.
That's right, Mike. As our show preview, as our show title was West Side Stories, as we are talking about the Western divisions this week.
Yep.
So, Mike, we'll just go from where I've got it in the outline, Mike. So we're going to go with the Rams.
Yeah.
A rough year last year with injuries to Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. And they're getting those guys back healthy, supposedly. Although I think Cooper Kupp suffered a minor injury, but he should be ready for this regular season, I think. But they lost some good defensive players in Leonard Floyd.
Yeah.
And Jalen Ramsey. So, do you think they're going to bounce back, or was last year the signs of it was time to pay the piper for all the mortgaging the future to get that Super Bowl title?
Rich, who's my favorite quarterback in the NFL?
Is it Matthew Stafford?
Generally, it's been Matthew Stafford for a good long while. But guess what? It's been a good long while. He 36?
I think it's like 36, 37.
35. 35, I'm sorry.
Okay.
35. Pulling it out of my head there, but 35 years old. This is when, and again, we've been seeing a few quarterbacks recently going into their 40s. That has not been the case for most of the NFL. We're sitting here, 35 is around the time that you start talking about retirement for quarterbacks. Now, yes, the rules have changed and things are getting better, and, I think Matthew Stafford probably could. But, Rich, what's the number one rule about the mileage on your car?
You got to take care of that car. The more the miles, you got to take care of it.
Well, it's not the miles that so much as how hard you've ridden those miles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how terrible has the offensive line that Matthew Stafford has been behind for most of his career been?
Pretty bad. Even going back to Detroit, and he had a good offensive line in the Super Bowl year, but their best offensive lineman Andrew Whitworth retired 2 years ago.
Yeah,
After the Super Bowl.
Matthew Stafford has been sacked way more than again. I'm just doing rough calculations in my head, but if I think about it correctly, Matthew Stafford's probably been sacked more in his time in the NFL than Tom Brady had been in his entire time in the NFL.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if that is correct.
Because seriously, the man was in in Detroit for so long, getting the crap beat out of him. I feel bad for Los Angeles. They got their Super Bowl out of it.
So, Mike, with that LA market, do you almost feel that I almost feel like they have to keep winning to keeping the fans coming back and interested?
Yep.
So, do you keep on going down the road of kicking the can down the road and mortgaging your draft picks to keep acquiring veterans to have a competitive playoff eligible team, or do you eventually need to stop trading those draft picks so you can actually get good, controllable players on rookie deals to build around your roster?
Tell me who you're
first and second round draft picks.
Tell me who you're gonna pick. Who are you gonna? Who do you have the ability to pick up right now?
Right now for this team?
Yeah.
No, that there isn't anybody out there.
I don't think this team. I think your question is right, and I think the question is, I think the answer is, it's time to start rebuilding. And you're not rebuilding around a 35-year-old quarterback. And the hard part is, you can't tank out there in LA. So does that mean they're going to have to, I mean, I don't know.
Are they going to mortgage the future to get up to a top 3 pick to get a quarterback? Kind of like what they did with to get Jared Goff.
I don't know. And that's the hard part. It's such a gamble. Jared Goff looked like he was a sure pick. And he does do well, but man, we're going to get into him next week.
Yeah, but you know what? Banners fly forever, though.
Yeah, and they got that banner.
Eventually, and they got that banner. The Seahawks, Mike, can they do it again with Geno Smith?
So what did we see when Geno was young?
He played on some bad teams, though. He got stuck with the New York Jets when he was young.
He did get stuck with the New York Jets when he was young. But when he was stuck with the New York Jets, he had a couple years of greatness and then fell flat on his face. Now, you could argue that it was the team around him that caused him to fall on his face. I'm not denying that. But Matthew Stafford played great in Detroit despite having a terrible team. How do we not hold Geno Smith up to the same scrutiny? I don't see it happening in Seattle again. So
I think they've got the right. I've liked what they've put around him around the offense, getting him another wide receiver, and Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. I like what they've done to where, man, they're playing in a tough division. That's what's going to make it really tough.
And that's the biggest problem they have. But is that division really that tough? Let's look at we're looking at this division.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the. So we've already said that we think it's time for the Rams to start the rebuild. I don't think they're going to bounce back. I don't think the answer is Matthew Stafford for the long term. So I think it's time to start the rebuild. They're not going to be great. Okay, we are kind of we kind of agree with that.
The Cardinals are already in that rebuilding phase of trying to get bringing in a new coaching staff.
So far we have two teams
evaluating talent.
We have two teams that aren't that great, right?
I think the Rams are going to be middle of the road just because of who they have.
But again, middle of the road isn't great. Middle of the road is middle of the road. You said they play in a tough division. How tough is that division so far with the three teams we've looked at? It's tough because they're all about the same. I think the Cardinals are a little lower, but the Cardinals are easy. The Rams aren't tough. They're a middle-of-the-road team. The Seahawks are a middle-of-the-road team. And guess what? Are we looking at Brock Purdy as the answer in San Francisco?
I think the Niners are going to find out. Was the Purdy that we saw those last 7 or 8 games, or maybe it was like 4 or 5 games, the guy that we want to hitch our wagon to and go on a really super cheap rookie deal and go forward?
Right. That's the question. And if he's not, now what? What's that team look? If Brock Purdy's not the person that he was in those 8 games, if he turns out to be the lemon that everybody thought he was, which is why he was drafted where he was drafted, Mr. Irrelevant, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If everybody thinks he's Mr. Irrelevant, and he turns out that he actually is irrelevant,
well,
Rich,
you got Trey Lance. They got Trey Lance, the guy that you traded all the way up to go get with the 3rd overall pick, who I think they're starting to see why he was at North Dakota State and not at a major Division I team, because he can't stay healthy and he hasn't been able to. Maybe they haven't seen enough in practice to.
So tell me, Rich, we just looked at every team in this division. Tell me again how tough this division is. It's time to reevaluate what these divisions look like. And holding to the old way that the West, the powerhouse of the West, at least in the NFC, doesn't look like it that way.
Yeah, which I mean, with the 49ers, it almost seems like they're trusting the process that it doesn't matter who's out of their center. In a Kyle Shanahan offense, he can make a scheme to make a quarterback look good enough.
Yep. And that's the hope.
So it doesn't matter whether it's Purdy, Lance, or Darnold. That's probably why they let Garoppolo walk, because they could plug and play anybody in there.
Who was the last coach we talked about that style with? A man by the name of Bill Belichick, perhaps?
Yeah.
How's that? You can plug anybody into a Bill Belichick offense. It's working for him the last couple of years.
It didn't work last year.
Okay.
Or the year after that.
So my question again, Rich, how good is this West?
You did give me a think about that.
Here's why it's tough, because they are equal to each other. And so for when they play each other 2 games a year, they're going to beat up on each other. But guess what? The rest of the league is going to beat up on them too. So it's going to be who from the West is forced to lose a playoff game. That's my prediction for the West. I haven't told you who it's going to be, but that's my prediction for the West. Who in the West is going to be the team to lose the first round of the playoffs? I will put that on the books right now. I just said it. You heard it.
No, I think they're this division winner. The team I've got in my mind of who's going to be the division leader, it'll be more than likely it'll be their defense carrying them. but I think that but I think they can at least make it out of the first round.
I don't. I think I have the same team, and I don't. And yes, defenses win championships, but one of the things that you and I have seen for 35 years, Rich, 37 years, defenses win championships, but when your defense is on the field so much, they get tired. And it's hard to win a championship when you're tired. Okay. Anything else in the NFC West that you want to talk about?
Not really.
Okay.
Do you think this is a make or break year for Kyler Murray?
Obviously.
Is the contract going to keep him in Arizona,
No.
or would they eat the contract and cut him if
Nope.
it doesn't work out this year with him coming off the injury?
They're gonna. I mean, it is a make or break if he can show up and do it. If he can put in the work. If he can survive, maybe. But I think the front office, who in the front office wanted Kyler Murray?
That guy's not there no more. The coach is gone, and the front office and the GM is gone.
And so they're saddled with Kyler Murray. They did not pick Kyler Murray. So look for them to try to pick someone up next year. Look for them to try to make it to be one of those top 5 picks and get a good quarterback and show the world we're ready to move on. That is my prediction.
All right, Mike. Well, sorry, we're going to go over to the AFC, Mike. And the first team I got on there is the Denver Broncos. Can Sean Payton fix this team?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But it won't be this year.
Yeah, I still see this being the year that Sean Payton puts his system in place, and next year is going to be the year where you see the jump. It's just that side of division is tough to where you could see that you've got. I probably picked the Broncos to not make the playoffs, but it's not gonna be such an easy victory. It'll be
Nope.
They're gonna be a tough matchup every single week, I think.
Yeah. I don't think it takes 3 years for you to get from the time you take over. That first year is a throwaway. The second year is a starting to get my stuff in place. The third year is your make year.
All right. So my question, because we all saw what Sean Payton was able to do with the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah. And how terrible they were when he left.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But can a Sean Payton offense? I think the one thing that really helped that Sean Payton type of offense was having half of their games in a dome.
Yep.
On the turf in the Superdome. Now
below sea level, by the way.
Late season games.
By the way, they were
late season games.
They were below sea level, which means what? More oxygen.
That's what I'm interested to see is how is he gonna make that offense work when it's cold and windy in Denver, and they're also playing division games in Kansas City.
Yeah.
In the cold, out in the cold weather. Yeah. How is that team gonna do?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Those uncontrolled environments that are becoming fewer and far between, which is sad because the Bears are heading in that direction too. I don't know. I don't think Sean Payton's going to be able to make it work. I think he will eventually. I don't think it'll be this year. Look for them to contend next year and to be good the year after.
Okay. So which team finished? We don't necessarily want to give out who finishes first in the division,
right?
Because that's another show.
Yep.
But who do you think finishes last in this division? Them or the Raiders? I don't think it's going to be the Chargers or Chiefs.
The Raiders are on. The Raiders are. They're kind of a dumpster fire still. They're still reeling and trying to pick up pieces and figure out how to make this work correctly. And they're in Vegas, which makes it even harder. There's way more distractions. I think the Raiders are the worst team in the West.
I'd have to agree with you. I still think it was a little bit of a head scratcher for them to not give Rich Bisaccia a chance to give the get the full-time job after guiding them to the playoffs as an interim coach after the whole Gruden fiasco that year.
And now you got to make the Patriot way work in Vegas?
Yeah, because you chose to bring in Josh McDaniel. Because Josh McDaniel, Derek, there was nothing wrong with Derek Carr.
Nope.
Before he comes in and has to learn a Josh McDaniels Patriot style offense, and they ran him out of town because the interceptions went up, the touchdowns went down.
Yeah, I don't like this coaching hire, and I don't like it for him, and I don't like it for the team. I wholeheartedly I didn't expect anybody to sign him to a contract or offer him a contract after what he did to Indianapolis as a head coach. And with what he did there, I wholeheartedly expected that the move for him was, hey, I'm here until Bill Belichick leaves, and then I'm the head coach of the New England Patriots.
So did I, because New England fell apart with him not there last year.
So
and they're hoping that they can bring that back. They can get that back on track, bringing back Bill O'Brien.
So I think
that was last week, Mike.
I think Vegas is going to be bad, and I don't think that's going to work out for him. And I think Sean Payton is worth at least one win. I don't think Josh McDaniels in his first year is worth one win.
Well, Josh McDaniels is on year number 2.
I don't think in year number 2 he's worth one win.
Neither do I. All right, Mike, what's our next team?
Let's go with Kansas City, my second favorite team in the league.
All right.
Mostly because when Joe Montana went there, I just wanted to. I was a huge Joe Montana fan. That's it. So they've always been my second team. I've said it on here before. I'm not cheating on the Bears anyway. They're AFC. It doesn't count.
Okay. And what's your Chiefs talk? The only thing I can come up with, does this team have a weakness? I don't even know if that's a good talking point for this team, really.
Oh man. Do they have a weakness? Yes. Does anybody know what it is yet? No. At this point, is it Super Bowl or bust for them every year until somebody proves that it's not?
Yeah, I'd have to say yeah.
So, not to get into the weeds for our predictions for 3 weeks out, but man, is that going to be...
They're going to be tough to overthrow in that division, let alone the conference.
Yeah,
in the conference.
And what's crazy about it is people are like, what did they do in the offseason? What did they need to do in the offseason, Rich? I think you just said it all. What do you do to stop this team? And I think, actually, Sean Payton.
Sean Payton, house up.
Sean Payton, he's going to come back for a year, maybe 2, and then he's going to have to be on another forced vacation. Bountygate on Patrick Mahomes is the only way to stop the Kansas City Chiefs. Tell me I'm wrong.
It's a good way to start. It's a good way to start.
I don't see any other way. So, okay.
And finally, we have the LA Chargers, Mike. And for me, it's can they put it all together? They're a team that sometimes starts hot, and then they fizzle out.
And they fizzle out. They're a team that has...
They find a way to not make the playoffs.
They're a team that has great talent and squanders it regularly. I think part of the problem is that they have to face the Kansas City Chiefs twice a year. They have to face the Broncos twice a year, most years. It's a struggle, but this year, the last couple hasn't been. But still, the Chargers always are in this uphill battle. It feels to me like they always start the season in an uphill battle before they even start the season. And I'm gonna say it, moving to LA put them behind the 8 ball even more because they don't actually have their own home facility.
Yep.
It's rented,
and it feels like they're constantly on the road because even their home games, they're home. They've had to go to like a silent count and operate like they're a road team.
Right. So when you're playing games that you're a road team, tell me how you're ever gonna get the traction that you need to. One of the nice things about Chicago teams, one of the things that I will argue makes Chicago teams competitive every year, and this is across the board, is that fans show up and cheer. Now, we're not talking just specifically the Bears, but when you're talking the LA teams are not, with the exception of the Lakers and the Dodgers, no team based in or around LA, it has a following of diehard fans.
Yep, I can totally agree with you. They are really a bandwagon fan base. If you're winning, hey, they're going to show up. They're going to cheer you on.
By the way, if your opponent's winning, guess what? They're going to show up and they're going to cheer them on. Because people in LA aren't from... Nobody in LA is from LA. It's kind of the whole concept of LA. Everybody's from around the world. The Chiefs made it harder, or the Chargers made it harder on themselves. I don't know how they're going to pull it together. I think San Diego was their best option to pull it together, and they decided to leave there.
Yeah, I still hate the move for them going up to LA. I mean, the Rams had recent history of maybe even a fan base they left behind. The Bolts, any fans that they had in LA already changed over to be Raiders fans or Rams fans by the time the Bolts left for San Diego.
And all the fans they had in San Diego hated that they moved to LA.
Yep. So they're not going to make the trip up to LA to see a game.
Even though it's the same as a Bears fan heading from the Quad Cities up to Chicago. It's actually a little shorter. Isn't it like 90 minutes?
I'm not sure what the distance is from San Diego to LA.
But even though...
I would imagine it's around the same about distance.
With traffic, you end up at a 3-4 hour drive. In the Quad Cities, how many people are making that drive to get to Wrigley, or to get to Soldier Field in the dead of winter? How many people from San Diego are making that easy trip on a beautiful highway with perfect weather up to see the Chargers play? And I'm going to say slim to none. Okay, Rich, ready to move on to our quick hits?
I sure am. So next week, folks, we're going to be going to the middle, as we're going to be looking at the Southern divisions and the North minus the Bears.
Yep.
That is next week.
Okay. So let's, with our quick hits, join our fantasy if you want to join a fantasy football league with Rich and I, and you want it to be a Balls and Sticks fantasy football team league, let us know. We need to know so that we can get it started. If we don't have enough people, and by the way, to let us know, you need to, if you're watching us on Facebook, send us a message, either Rich or I, or send the Balls and Sticks Facebook page a message saying you want to be in a league and you're willing to do it. Or if you're listening to us anywhere else, please email us. Please go to Facebook. If you can't go to Facebook to do it, then are you going to go to Yahoo to sign up for the league?
All right, and we also have our NFL Pick'em Challenge up and running, Mike.
Yep.
Is
It's in the show description.
Yep. You have a link for where to go to join the league on Yahoo, and we've also provided the group name and the password, so you can see if you can do better than Mike and I on a week to week basis. And we've already had one person sign up, Mike.
Yep.
As
Welcome,
their
Mike Sable.
Yep, Mike Sable, or as you'll see him on the poll page, Fields of Dreams.
Okay. Another quick hit. Iowa and Iowa State are having a bit of a scandal when it comes to their players. Rich, let us know what's happening there.
Well, Mike, they've been accused of some of gambling on the results of Iowa and Iowa State sporting events. And one of them was a kicker who was betting underneath, placing multiple bets underneath his mom's username on the under of the Cyhawk game to go under. And he was underage, so he's not. So, as a university football player on scholarship, or at least on the team, he was placing bets, and they were pings. They were actually coming in, I guess, from restricted areas within the Iowa campus. So within the athletic complex in the player dorms.
Wow.
And he was doing it underage. But supposedly his mom gave him knew the bets were being placed underneath her name. But he was still underage.
Yeah, he broke so many. That's terrible. That's terrible. I don't think, man, that's rough.
But yeah, I mean, it's tough because, I mean, you or I can easily.
I can make that bet all day.
Yep, we both live in Iowa, but at the same time, we're not Iowa State or Iowa team employees. We can't bet on the outcome of our own game, of the games. So I think it's going to.
I can't bet on my esports team.
No, I think it's still something that needs to be ironed out.
And and it's not just a college problem; it's a pro problem. We have how many guys out for the year because of betting on games? It's ridiculous. And one final thing, speaking of the Big Ten, Rich, we've added Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, they're going to be coming on board in 2024. It looks like the same year that USC and UCLA come out.
That's why it makes sense. By the way, the Ducks and by the way, I'm so happy we're going to get to see those Ducks uniforms so much more. Oh, it's going to be pretty. Those Ducks have great uniforms. But Washington and Oregon are going to join it. Makes sense to have 4 teams in the West. You have 3 teams out east, right? Rutgers,
if you count Penn State,
Maryland,
Rutgers, or at least Rutgers and Maryland,
Penn State
out east. Penn State, kind of out east, more on the eastern seaboard.
But Penn State's always been a Big Ten school, so I guess that doesn't.
Yeah, they've been Big Ten for a while, but I mean. That's still a lot of distance to cover for those 4 West Coast teams. Their closest division, their closest team is Nebraska.
Outside of the 4 that they have over there already, and that makes sense. So I think that makes sense. Okay, so
but it could also spell the end for the Pac-12.
It's gonna spell the end of. What does the Pac-12 have left?
They have Stanford. Cal, Arizona's leaving for the Big 12, so you got Arizona State, but that's it. I don't know how they can recover and get out of it.
Okay, Rich, do you have any shout-outs for the show?
Not this week, Mike. Mike, do you have a shout-out?
I do. Happy birthday to my wife. Danielle has her birthday on Monday. We'll celebrate. We'll also give her a shout out next week because she deserves it. She's awesome. She puts up with me, and she lets us do this show every week. Thank you, baby, for letting us do that, and just have fun every week. Let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. in the comments, say happy birthday, Danielle. Just real quick. Happy birthday, Danielle. You don't even have to put Danielle. Just put happy birthday. Happy birthday. I'll let her know. If you're on YouTube, do that down there. If you're on Facebook, do it down there, over there, wherever it is. Just let her know. So, with that, Rich, what should they do if they want to listen to us on the road?
You know, if you want to listen to it, just get the audio of us, of our show. Feel free to look us up wherever you get your podcasts. On your preferred podcast platform, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, just to name a few.
And we mentioned,
what?
already that you could find us on YouTube, as it's Facebook, or it's youtube.com/ballsandsticks and some numbers. I don't remember what they are, but it's in the description. And Rich,
all right, Mike,
where do they go for our poll questions?
Mike, you can find the poll questions over on Facebook at Fans of Balls and Sticks, or the regular Balls and Sticks page.
What's the time to do, Rich?
Mike, let's go ahead and roll the outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.